will only be addressed next time. So for now I would like just to address Our Lady, and Our Lady in the dark night, but as well in Jesus' Passion. In Jesus' Passion. These are things that you already know, but it's a bit more information, more depth into it. Okay? You know, very well this central issue in Jesus' Passion, which is his promise to rise. Let us take the parable of the sower and connect it with the promise that Jesus makes that he will die and will rise. Do you know that for 3 times in the synoptical Gospels, Jesus is predicting and prophesying that he will die, suffer, die, and rise. For 3 times he does that. Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, and the following we have this. We already addressed that issue before. We know that this promise is central. We will go through Jesus' Passion next week. So it will be even more alive for you than just theory. It's more, you will have the opportunity to go through it in a liturgical way, in a more lived way, in the Holy Week. When we go through the Holy Week in general, we know that he will rise. Why the apostles didn't know that he will rise? That's a huge difference. That's a huge difference. They will all hit a wall at least the last one of them, which is St. John and St. Mary Magdalene, at 3 p.m. So they are all walking with Jesus, but they reach a point where they won't be able to continue. They will be dispersed. As Jesus says, Satan claimed you will be sifted, you will be dispersed, you will all fall today, but then when you will come back, he's talking to Peter, you will do this, this and that. So all of them are walking with Jesus, but they reach 3 p.m., the last one, John and Mary Magdalene, and they can't continue. Are you with me? This, what I'm saying now here, should be able to help you, especially from 3 p.m. next Friday till, say, 4 a.m. on Sunday. So try not to spend Saturday just preparing your chocolates and things, because you should be going through an experience. So let us try to understand this type of experience, what it means. So in order just to understand this thing, I will just take the parable of the sower. What does the parable of the sower say? The parable of the sower, if we take and we apply it as I will rise. So the sower came out and is sowing his seeds, but his seeds is I will rise. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So the parable of the sower, imagine it's starting here at 3 p.m. and Jesus is saying, imagine, of course he's dead, but imagine he's saying, I will rise the third day. So there are people who listen to that promise. Remember the parable of the sower. You have three soils. First soil doesn't get anything in it, no? It's complete tarmac. Nothing gets through it. Second one is a rocky one. So it has a little bit of depth, but not much because there are rocks. So we rejoice, but then goes flop. Then the third one says, yeah, of course. And then there is some depth, but it is surrounded by weed. We lost one. So there is some weed surrounding here the promise. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. I didn't see it. Thank you very much. Very kind. So now, some people maybe believed that he will rise, but it became very confused because you had pressure from the weed. So we are at that junction here. The weed is entering and we can't really hear what he said and we can't bear fruits. And what is to bear fruits for in front of this promise? What is to bear fruits? To believe in the resurrection and therefore set yourself up, prepare yourself to meet the risen Lord. Wait, hope, fight back the thoughts. And this is not happening. This is not happening. And then strangely, what do you have? You have the fourth earth, the fourth soil, sorry, and the fourth soil will receive the promise and will bear fruits 30, 60, and 100. How do you see that?
The capacity given by different people, by God, to bear fruit.
Yeah, but who is believing in the resurrection?
No, she's the mother of Christians.
Fine, yeah, fine. But who is believing? Only Mary, or there are other people?
Mary.
Reading for us.
Huh? Yeah, I know that, but I'm talking about individuals now. Who believed in the resurrection? No, she didn't believe. Mary Magdalene, she was looking for a gardener for a dead body, and she wanted to bury him, so she didn't believe. She thought he was a gardener. She didn't even recognize him. No, St. John said that when he entered in the tomb, he saw and believed. So, yeah, but you see, you need to reach this conclusion, you need to become aware of this conclusion, and you take conclusions after that conclusion. Because if only Mary believed in the resurrection, how will you spend your coming week? Yeah, you say now with Mary, but how many days went already are gone and spending the Holy Week preparing our chocolates? Do you see the thing? I'm trying to use as well all the experience of the second level course, the teaching of the saints in the second level course, and translate it as well into deep insights about the gospel and understand what is Christianity. Do you understand that we can't say that He's risen? Because we can't believe in resurrection. It's written in the book. He didn't believe this one didn't believe, didn't bear fruits, this one didn't really have bear fruits. Bear fruits, it's to reach that moment of accepting and bearing fruits. But thank God, we have somebody who believed. And thank God, as you said, Rufaro, she believed for us. Which maybe, this is pushing my luck a little bit, maybe is the explanation of these three numbers that are very strange. 30, 60 and 100. Why 30, 60 and 100? It's one person. It's the good soil. You read the text, Matthew 13, Mark 4, Luke 8, I think. Read the text. It's the good soil. And we know that Mary is the good soil from the tradition, the Byzantine tradition, the Maronite tradition. Mary is the symbol of Mary is the good soil. So Mary believed not only for herself but for us. So I don't know, if number 1 failed, number 2 failed, and number 3 failed, I don't know, maybe these are their fruits if they take the root of the good soil. If you take the root of the good soil, you might, in her and with her, bear fruits 30, others will bear fruit 60, and others will bear 400. It's a possible interpretation. But it's not absolutely. What is more sure is that she is the only one who believed. Do you understand the problem here? Why is she the only one who believed? Which characteristics she has that other people don't have?
Immaculate Conception.
What makes her believe while others didn't believe? What does she have that others don't have?
Faith.
Faith? Well, what stops you from having faith? Doesn't have original sin. We are getting there. Well, she had it, but then it was removed by Jesus, if we wanted to talk in a more accurate way. So, she is saved by Jesus, but didn't have to go through original sin in a preventive way by Him, but she's still coming from Him. Are you with me? You know that the definition of the Immaculate Conception goes this way. It says that Mary, foreseeing the merits of Jesus on the cross, is born without the original sin. It means that her Savior is Jesus. And because of Jesus' redemption on the cross, she received that privilege to have it before the cross, but it's coming from the cross. Are you following that bit? Okay. Well, that's huge. Yes, you want to say something?
Would we say that Mary is all new woman? So her ability to receive the word is, she doesn't have any obstacles.
Yeah, correct, of course. Mary is a new Eve. Mary is wholly new, entirely new. So obviously she doesn't have any obstacles, any difficulties to have faith, but it's the faith that comes from being totally saved from first moment, from day one of her conception.
But it's also her experience of losing Jesus in the temple and recovering him again. That was a kind of a preparation for his death for 3 days.
If you want, yes, if you want. It's like a prophecy, if you want. But the capacity to believe is due to a structure, I would say a structural reason, which is how she's built. She didn't have any scratch or any damage or any, it's a way of course to speak. So her faith was capable of grasping what Jesus was doing. Okay? But this is a lot what we are saying. Because in this case, she is following Jesus, she's walking with him, she reaches the passion, and she continues. And whom she meets at 4 a.m. and where she meets him?
At home.
At home. Everybody is mentioned to have left home and run to the tomb. And the angels are complaining, and they say what? Why are you searching for the living amongst the dead? You are going to a cemetery, to a place of dead people. At that very moment, which is at dawn, they go to a cemetery, to a place of dead people. They don't find him. He already is not. Where is he? Where they left. At home. Where Mary is. Did she have to go? No. He went to her. Then they will see him after. Are they seeing the resurrection itself?
No.
Are they witnesses of the resurrection itself? Of course, they are witnesses of the risen Lord, therefore, in a generic way, the resurrection. But they are not witnesses of the resurrection as a fact. They are witnesses of Jesus, who appears after. So nobody witnessed the resurrection itself, except Mary. So, how would you live the Holy Week? Is it possible for me to go through that time, to continue here like this red line here crossing from 3 p.m. continuing to walk here till 4 a.m. in the morning? Is it possible? The letter to the Hebrews says that God created a new way between humans and God. The letter to the Hebrews, chapter 10, says God created a new way. Of course, we think of Jesus because he said, I am the way. But I like to think as well that the bridge that is bridging the old world with the new creation, the new world, is simply Mary. This is a fact. I'm not inventing anything. When you read carefully the text, you see it at least with a bit of depth. You could see it. So, the parable of the sower is shedding a very interesting light on the resurrection itself, the promise of the resurrection and the fact of the resurrection. And it shows us that only the good soil is bearing fruits, and the good soil is this soil that crosses to the other side. There is a very solid tradition in certain churches, in ours as well, but it's a bit lost, it's in the Middle Ages, that said that Jesus, the first person he appears to, or the first person he goes to, is Mary. Rejoice, Mary. First cry and shout in the resurrection in the Byzantine church is rejoice, Mary. Not rejoice church, rejoice Jerusalem, blah blah blah. It says Jerusalem, but when you continue the song in the end, the Jerusalem is Mary. You understand the jump from Jerusalem to Mary? Do you understand how Mary is the Jerusalem? Do you understand that? Do you see it? No. When she crosses all this, is she alone? Physically she's alone to believe. But is she, what's the relationship between her and us? Is she dropping us completely? She's carrying us. That's huge. So, in her, unknowingly, you crossed from the old world to the new world, the new creation. Are you with me? So she's like a pregnant woman, huge tummy, carrying each one of us in her tummy, and she's crossing with her faith, her hope, etc., all that abyss between, abyss of death between the old world and the new world, and she's waiting for him, expecting him, praying for him to rise, because she knows he will rise. And you would notice that he rose a bit early. So, where are we? We have to choose between being dispersed or being in her womb. We have to choose between being dispersed or being in her womb. Being in her womb means we are meeting him in the end of the tunnel here. We are meeting him at the dawn of the day that God created, that God made for us. The big day, the final day, the eternal day, the day of the resurrection, the day of the future. So that meeting between her and him, during that meeting, we can consider, through this vision, we can consider that we are witnesses of that meeting. Because where are we? Inside of her. So you are a witness if you choose of the resurrection, not apparitions, the resurrection. It's a completely different thing. If you choose this solution. Are you with me? I don't find today, we are 2015, I don't find other solutions for Christianity and for the future. I don't find any other solution outside of this way that God created for us, that God made for us. I don't think that it's enough to say Jesus is risen if our forerunners, people who went before, Peter, Magdalene, John, etc., they all failed to believe, and they stated in the gospel. They are not hiding. They are not saying, oh, I don't know really that I want to tell you that I didn't believe. No, they say, I didn't believe. And in saying so, they are shedding a light on the one who did believe. Very between the line, but it's still there. So I find it very difficult today at this junction in my life, from years, but more and more and more, it's like almost getting you in your neck. You know? I don't find any solution for Christianity to continue, else than recognizing the central role of Mary in our destiny, in our salvation. She's not saving, but she's there. The Annunciation. Without the Annunciation, without Mary, God will not become incarnate. Do you accept that? It's not difficult. But I dare to say, without Mary, the resurrection wouldn't work. Ah, that's new. But I deeply believe in it. I'm just showing it to you. And the key of all this, the explanation of all this comes from what? From simply the doctrine of the Immaculate Conception. This is the only explanation possible. Why she can and we can't. We can in her, fine. She's our mother. But per se alone, Peter wasn't able. Per se alone, John wasn't able. Per se, John went till the cross. This is why I say here, but there are people who left him before. There are people even who left him stages before. But I'm taking here the best one. The best one is John and Mary Magdalene. They are the ones who were there at the cross. But still, after that, they couldn't continue. Because it's the abyss. This route, this road, this way is totally new. Absolutely new. And, I'm sorry for that, it's the only one. And this is why I have a great difficulty today to understand how we were able to invent and engineer other ways to cross and believe in the resurrection. If you meet any Christian today, be him Catholic, Orthodox, Protestant, there are hundreds of families, etc., and they all believe in the resurrection. But I say, how could you do that if your understanding of Mary is not upright? How can you do that? I don't grasp it. I don't understand it. It's not possible. It's impossible to get to the resurrection just out of the magic of you wanting to believe. It will not work this way. You have to have enough humility, like Peter, John, and Magdalene, and the others. When you are scattered, when you are hitting the wall of your incapacity, think of the dark night. The dark night, what is happening? The old man, Peter, the old man in Peter is hitting the wall of his incapacity. But what is he forced to discover? To discover that she did it, and plus she did it for him. It's a double truth that we are getting from about Mary. She did it, that's fine. Bless you. Lucky you. But you did it for me. Oh, lucky me. Me, you, all of us, no. That's a completely different thing. So this is the second good news for us, is to discover our radical incapacity to cross the abyss, which is to believe in the resurrection. And I'm waiting for that day where the church will be able to say, we cannot believe in the resurrection out of Mary. Pope John Paul II said something that looks like that. You remember, I often mention this, no? He says, the Marian profile of the church precedes the Petrinian profile. What does it mean? Marian means relating to Mary, no? Marian profile. Profile is like the profile of the church, the aspect of the church, no? The Marian profile of the church comes before the Petrinian. Petrinian from Petrus. Petrus is Peter. Peter means the Pope, means magisterium, means bishops united to him, and all the other things. So Mary comes before, and here it is shining, no? Mary comes before. It's demonstrated indirectly in the Gospel. She comes before. Are you with me? And all this is due because she has a different capacity from the rest of us, which is she is saved before time. This is what God wanted. He wanted somebody to receive him. At least one person to receive him. She received him in the Annunciation, and she continued to receive him throughout her life, and she received him in the resurrection. He rose for her, in a way. But we were there. You were there. In her. So, do you understand what I'm trying to do here? So after being scattered, after hitting our incapacity to believe, after experiencing our radical poverty, we discover at the same time the mercy of God, and that He's offering us Mary, that new way where Jesus will land. No, the risen Lord needs to land on a soil. He doesn't appear like hanging in the air. He needs to land, like the seed landed in a good soil. So the risen Lord needs a good soil, needs Mary, and thank God we are in her, and therefore we could be received by Him. And we could see Him rising, just in her and through her. Okay? Now, I would like to say something that is more, historical, if you want, more in time. Yeah?
Grateful for this insight about Mary.
Yeah.
But what do you think about Mary Magdalene when she meets Jesus on the road, and at the end she recognized her as the
She what? In the end? Please, can you just listen? Huh?
She recognized him as the Lord and God.
Yeah.
Even before Jesus going home. What do you think about
Even
that?
Jesus, before Jesus going home?
Going to meet Mary.
No, the meeting Mary happens before that.
Before Mary Magdalene.
Of course. Because He's already risen. He rises first. She goes and, or somebody else goes as well, you need to read all the accounts. They go, they find the tomb empty. Remember, read it. This story of Mary Magdalene happens after. She goes first, finds the tomb empty. Well, you can read it in the Gospel. But he rises anyway before. Okay? Read all the accounts, but think that he rises before. Then these things happen after. He is already risen. So he went and stayed with Mary, then he appears to others. Is that okay? Is that okay? Just a moment. I know I need to say things and I have only 10 minutes.
I just wanted to help you to say that when Mary Magdalene went to the tomb, she went with the oils, still thinking.
Of course, no doubt about that. She went to marry him again. So she's not going as a believer, she's going as somebody who is expecting, who wants to bury him because he was buried in a rush on Friday because the Sabbath was starting, and on the Sabbath you can't work, and bury is a work. So they had to bury him rapidly. Then she was going again with all the unguents and the spices in order to bury him again. So throughout Saturday, she's not thinking of a risen Lord, she's thinking of a dead body that she wants to honor of her master, of her whatever, and she wants to bury him again. Of course, thank you, yes, of course. Now, sadly we have just 6 minutes. Can I do that in 6 minutes? I'm not sure. Anyway, I've been always, past tense of struck by the events that surrounds the Immaculate Conception, the declaration of the Immaculate Conception 2 centuries ago, which was around 50 something. No? 1850 something. What happened, in a very summarized way, I noticed that all the troubles that Europe, some countries at least in Europe, were going through, and there are deep troubles. You think that today we are in trouble. Oh, well, read a bit of history. Read a bit of history and see what happened in the previous centuries, and how atheism started to grow 2 centuries ago, not now, and how it started to spread. So the real damage was inflicted, say, by the French Revolution, for instance, and then you have in France a restoration, what we call a restoration, then another revolution in 1813, then another revolution after in the 50s, then wars that come after, etc. Italy is influenced by what is happening in France, because this is like a wind that is blowing against all the all the kingdoms. So you have the Republicans in Italy who are manifesting against the Pope, because they want to get rid of the kings, and amongst the kings you have the Pope. They want to get back the land, etc., and are manifesting. And in 1848, the Republicans in Italy will kill the Pope's Prime Minister on the stairs. Going down or up the stairs, they kill him. And the Pope will fear for his own life and escape to another kingdom in the south, which is a kingdom of Gaeta, which is related to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So he's safe in this area. He escapes hidden, wearing normal priest clothes. So the Pope, Pius IX, escapes in these conditions, fearing for his own life. It is at that moment, Pius IX was very devoted to Our Lady, and remember that Pius IX, before him, we had the apparitions of La Rue du Bac, where Our Lady appeared to Saint Catherine Labouré, asking her to coin a medal that had as invocation Mary conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to you, to thee, whatever. Mary conceived without sin. This is way before the declaration of the dogma of the Immaculate Conception, and it is in one of the apparitions. If you study well the events around that apparition of Our Lady to Catherine Labouré, which is in 1830, you discover that there is a serious political turmoil. People are killed in the streets, there is revolution, counter-revolution, etc. happening around that time. Atheism is spreading, aggression against the church and religious order is happening and will happen sadly more and more in France tens of years after. But it's very interesting for me, it is striking for me to see that the essential weapon that God is offering to the church is simply one thing: the declaration of the Immaculate Conception, or if you prefer, the Immaculate Conception, mystery of the Immaculate Conception. It appears here in France, 1830, with the La Rue du Bac. Pope Pius IX is very devoted to the Immaculate and knows about La Rue du Bac. He flies to Gaeta for 9 months and remains there, hidden, praying, not knowing what to do, and preparing, trying to find a solution. And it's at that time, during 9 months, where he decides to think about declaring Mary Immaculate Conception. He goes back in August of 1849, he goes back to Rome, things are a bit calmer. He, of course, asks all the bishops around the world and universities, deans, etc., and teach theologians what they think, so he constitutes a serious big file about the Immaculate Conception and ends up by declaring Mary Immaculate Conception. Then, of course, you will have Lourdes. Lourdes happens a few years after. Mary appears to Bernadette and speaks to her own language. Bernadette didn't know that Mary was Immaculate Conception because the declaration just happened only 2 or 3 years before, and only the priest knew about these things. So this is what struck the priest when Bernadette knocked at the door and just said it in patois, in the local language. Que soy era Immaculate Conception. She doesn't understand a word into it, and she said it, so he understood that something bigger is there. So, conclusion of all this is what? Extreme danger for the church. This is what we forget. We think of Immaculate Conception, we fight, we discuss, etc., but we forget that the Christianity is going under serious turmoil. Today is nothing compared to what they were going through. Or if you prefer, the roots of what we are living today, we are beyond the crisis now. We are like flying in a crisis from years. But the crisis started at that moment, French Revolution, right after the French Revolution, etc. So what God is offering to humanity is what? The Immaculate Conception. And personally, in my personal life, I am struck. I'm constantly thinking, in a way or another, why? Why and how the Immaculate Conception would be really a weapon, and against what, and how could we understand her? So going back to what I was saying, this is a way to understand the Immaculate Conception. The essential part of our... When Mary says to Catherine Labouré, she says, when people would think that everything is lost, this is when God will intervene, this is when things will happen. People will think that everything is lost. And indeed, this happened already. This is years. This is between 1830 and 1850 and so. So this has already happened in France. You need to read the history, the context of anything that happens, an apparition or anything. And if you read the circumstances, you understand that the church went... You know that the Archbishop of Paris were killed. 3 of them were killed in that century. It's a bit too much, no? Imagine like Cormac and Nichols and others are killed in less than a century. It's too much for different reasons. So when you think that we are living in difficult times, just read a little bit of what happened before in order to get a gist. But not only that, to understand what was God's response and why and how the Immaculate Conception is such a weapon. Well, of course, this is a human way to put it. No, a weapon, what is a weapon? But, so, do you see this parable of the sower? Do you see that only the good soil was capable of producing fruits? Do you see here the new way that only Mary believed? Isn't that a new era? Isn't that a new understanding? And for me, this is the Immaculate Conception. Because only a deeper understanding of the Immaculate Conception can get us to those results. And isn't this the core of our faith? And isn't this rather unknown? So, I'll leave you with those thoughts. I'm sure we will have plenty of opportunities in the future to discuss these things, but just I wanted to give you those ideas to understand that whenever everything feels completely lost, remember that God's answer is the Immaculate Conception. And just try to dig deeper, try to understand it, try to make an effort, which I've done pushed by God. I didn't know that I chose to do it, but it's just like why? It's there. It's like persecuting you. So this is how then we enter in deeper Christianity. When everything is lost, when Peter, John, Mary Magdalene are scattered, there is still a way to cross the abyss, to reach to the new world, and it's Mary. And thank God we are in her. So the new way, we already crossed, but we don't know it. So what are we supposed to do? To acknowledge that we were in her. To acknowledge that I failed. Remember, the apostles have the humility, and I'm closing here. The apostles had the humility to say, we didn't believe. Please read carefully all the accounts of the resurrection. We will soon need them in the after next week. So please read all the accounts of the resurrection and remember always that they have the humility to tell us we failed. And it is very important to understand that this is central to our faith. We will all fail if we rely just on ourselves. We will all fail if we think that we can believe in the resurrection. This is what I say, the good news of the Immaculate Conception. And when everything is lost, everything is possible then with Mary. Everything starts to be possible. So when the society in France, in Italy and other places was collapsing, the old order before, which is the end of the Middle Ages, you could say, and it ends with the French Revolution, with the coming with atheism, Masonry, Freemasonry, and republics, etc. All that destruction of the old world and the birth of a funny world, strange world. So when the old order is gone, when religious order, priests are killed, religious order are thrown out, very few religious order will remain in France various times in various waves, and the last one is toward the beginning of last century. So when you think that, yeah, we are living in hell, we know hell was before. Now we are living in a funny place, but it's not hell. When you are in France and you are a religious, you have to leave in 1904 or 5, you have to leave France. You have to go in exile just because you are a religious person, a monk or a nun or a priest. A priest were killed in the French Revolution because they were more or less involved as well with the king, with the running of the country in a way or another. For right or bad reasons, but these are facts. So really, the world was really collapsing. A birth of atheism was developing a lot, philosophy and science were developing a lot, remember in which centuries we are. So it's not really funny to live in that era. And really things are collapsing. and God comes, speaks to a very humble nun, Sainte Catherine Labouré, and says, could you just coin this little medal, no? Because there are plenty of graces that nobody is asking for. On top of just ask for graces, but there are hidden rays, and Mary explains and says these are graces that nobody is asking for. And this medal did wonders in France, and especially a few years after the apparition. I don't remember now, it was 1832 or something. They had an epidemic of cholera, so many people were dying, and many miracles happened when people had that thing. This is why it is called the miraculous medal, but initially it wasn't the miraculous medal, it's just a medal. Okay? So, I leave you with these deep thoughts on Mary, on her place in the Passion. What did I say? On her what? On her place in the Passion, whatever. So please remember this, meditate on that. See the connection between the parable of the sower and the seed. Remember what we read in St. John. If the seed doesn't fall in the soil and dies in it, it won't bear fruits. You remember that? So Jesus is the seed, and Mary is the soil. The sign on the back of the middle of the apparitions is like this. In the back of the medal, of miraculous medal, is like this. Did you notice something? I'm sorry, I'm just taking one minute. Where is the soil? Normally, if you draw the cross, you draw the cross like this. This is the soil, and this is the cross. Okay? So how the M comes? What's the relationship between the soil and the M? The soil is lifted. It's like almost held by the M, or if you prefer, the real soil is the M. So where the cross is planted, where salvation is planted? In Mary, at the height of Mary, not lower than Mary. If it falls in our soil, it won't bear fruit, but it falls in her soil. You look at the back of the thing. Google it and look at the back of the medal. You will see that it's a very strange drawing. The soil is lifted up in the M. I very rarely mention apparitions and things. People who know me, they would have noticed that. But here, I'm forced to speak about it, because simply the church was involved in it. Pius IX declared it. It's not me, it's the church, it's part of our life. And the history behind it and around it is important. And it's the same history that is happening in Italy in 48, 49, the Republicans. A few years before, happened in France. It started in France first. The disaster started in France first. So, I can't say these are just apparitions, this is a side thing. It's in the core of modern times. If you want to understand the time in which we live, you have to understand the Immaculate Conception and the relationship between the Immaculate Conception and with the tough times we're going through. Otherwise, how could you fight? How could you live? How could you breathe? And I think the more evil grows, the more the graces grow. So we have amazing graces and amazing light today that maybe older generation didn't have. Okay? I'm afraid can you ask me just after the question? So shall we just close? I'm sorry, I took 10 minutes. So shall we just say thank you to the Lord for this day that He gave us. Thank you for Therese, that first part of her teaching about the nights, the deep purification. Thank you, Lord, for this amazing teaching that she's offering us, her contemplation of your face, her contemplation of Isaiah 53, how she benefited from it. Help us, O Lord, especially throughout these coming days, to benefit from that teaching. Touch us, O Lord, by the intercession of Our Lady. Touch us and open our hearts so we can contemplate your face. We can benefit from your passion in a deeper way. Show us, O Lord, your love. Show us your glory in the cross. Attract us like a magnet, O Jesus, crucified Jesus. Attract us to you. Draw us to you, so we can discover the beauties hidden, your beauties that are hidden on the cross. Show us your love, the immense love you have for us, that you are giving us, communicating to us while you are on the cross. Teach us to live in the area around the cross. And we ask you this through the powerful intercession of the Immaculate Conception, Mary. Open our hearts, Our Lady, so we can receive the grace of God. Open our hearts, Mary, and guide us so we can receive all the torrents of the love of Jesus for us. Show us how to open our hearts. Guide us, Mary, from within. And lead us through this coming week with you and in you, especially in these difficult moments. And, between 3 p.m. on next Friday till the dawn of Sunday, draw us to you, Mary, so we can remain with you and meet the risen Lord when he rises and for you and comes and embraces you. Our Father, who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
So expect some text that will be sent through the newsletter. If you don't have your email registered, please register with Faro. Please talk to Fiona about the course in June. And